When I began my professional career in the 1960s, after 16 years of a liberal education that included considerable attention to ethical issues, based on that education, at the time I entered the American Foreign Service, it was the intention of pursuing what I understood to be bipartisan goals in our foreign policy, the policy that I've already outlined, that I also saw as deeply compatible with my own personal ethical principles. Once in government, I also learned that the actual implementation of these policies is sometimes imperfect, and at other times the government actually strays from them for longer periods. However, I always found it possible to advocate for change from within, and I was always satisfied to see, not just as a result of internal advocacy, that we eventually got back on track during these 70 years. There were ups and downs, but the general trend was fairly consistent and did the right thing. Now, our own democracies around the world are under systematic attack from outside and from some internal voices. And so is the liberal international order that I've described, that it has brought, in my view, so much good to the world. Therefore, a failure to counter this current authoritarian offensive would, in my view, clearly be a failure to defend our own democracy, all of its values, all of its security, and it would mean an abandonment of the international institutions that we rely on for so much of our military and economic security, as well as our leadership in the world. So, American democracy, support for democracy in the world, is a clear-eyed decision to protect our own core national interests, but also justified by profoundly ethical considerations in our foreign policy. Democracy, for all its faults, is ultimately a better system of government for a majority of individuals, and the inherent worth of the individual and his or her rights are the core of the ethical system to which I adhere and to which I believe most Americans adhere. The opposite side of the coin is authoritarianism, downgrades individual rights. We've seen with fascism and the brutality and that can occur in the fascist examples of the 30s, the Stalinist and Maoist regimes, and the brutality of a Putin or a Mugabe more recently. In my view, as long as the U.S. does not abandon the field for too long, I still believe that democracies of the world can manage to overcome this anti-democratic trend of the past decade and the authoritarian offensive that we're now facing, and that there is not only hope, but a probability that we can succeed, and if so, our support of democracy in the world is not only in our national self-interest and the interest of others in the world, it's clearly the right thing to do.